Hey guys, I'm Mike, and I was halfway through laying out this Rey and Kylo painting, or what's going to be a painting, a physical painting, and I thought you guys might like to watch me lay it out and concept it and the whole thing. So, right now I'm just adding in some details. I want the colors to be roughly what the finished product is going to be, but I don't want there to be photorealistic type detailing. I actually think that it's a lot easier to add texture and detail rather than with brushes, which tend to not look super great to my eyes. I think it's easier to do with traditional tools if you're going to do that. So I'm going to blend this thing down. Into a fairly rough state before I send it off, but it needs to have some more detail than it has now. It's pretty rough in its current form. I'm going to have to look at Kylo's mask because I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. As you can see, there's just some lines in here that I believe are roughly what his face looks like. What I really want to know is, where is Adam Driver's schnoz in this thing? Like, he's got a big honker, right? It's funny that I like make fun of someone's nose. My chair is squeaky. One of my most traumatic memories from childhood, I was like in 9th grade, and I was an assistant in a nurse's office or something because I didn't want to have a study hall. And this girl told me that I had the nose of a pig dog. It's like, I've had like actual traumatic, I mean, everyone's had like bad things happen to them, but that's like the worst thing that ever, like, that thing stuck with me my whole life. Alright. I'm just using a smudge tool. The same way I would my finger. I feel like people don't get their hands as dirty as they should when they're doing traditional art. Like, my handprints are all, it drives my wife crazy. My hands are all over the house. Those got pastel or something on them. And since this is going to be 18 by 12, what I might do is black it. If I really, really like the shapes and forms, what I'll do is I'll black this thing out and like create the outlines and then print the outlines on a paper to just save myself the penciling time. Can't really print on watercolor paper. Like, it doesn't like it at all. It's very faded and weird looking. On Bristol board, if you're doing comic book stuff though, you can print pencils, like darkened pencils, on Bristol board pretty easily. And it actually turns out pretty well, depending on your inking style. I tend to cover the whole page in ink, so that actually works very well. For me, like when I do comic book commissions, I'll print them out onto Bristol board. I'll do all the pencils and the roughs where I have Control Z digitally. And that way it's kind of funny that I'm known as like 99% of my work is traditional. Or appears traditional. But all my comic book stuff starts. My pencils are here. Just do it faster. And then that way the work is cheaper. And just as good. Probably. Who knows? I don't know if he has like a little crest up there or what the deal is. He just used all these like blocky, loose brushes that There was like a poster that she was all lit up like this that I kind of cribbed the pose from and changed her hair and her clothes and stuff. But I want lightsabers in the background. You know, the red and blue. Ooh, that's too much. I want the red and blue lightsabers in the background to light up both their faces, so we'll see what happens. I mean, they don't portray her as particularly feminine, but I think we can do a little bit better. Put a little red in her lips. I mean, she's already got enough strong, kind of typically boyish features. So it'd be nice to soften those up just a little bit. I mean, what's the point of having a female heroine if you're just going to make her look like a boy? You know? If you really are social justice warrioring? I don't know. Why don't you make your girls look like girls? This is just so... I think this is supposed to be some kind of hood. What I did here is I did like a quick overpaint, like big globs, and then I put a filter over the top to kind of give me a shape of her face. I composited two photos together, like a different hairstyle and whatnot, and then put a filter over the top to unify the colors and make it like this loose, pixely thing. And then I went in and painted in all the details so it just had a different feel to it. It's just a way of like speeding up the process of something like this. You know, especially when you're doing something like this isn't even the finished product. This isn't the painting. And that's probably why I prefer to work traditionally so much, because you could just cheat so much digitally. You know, it'd be really nice when this is just two outlines and I just get to bring her face to life, like, you know, by looking at a bunch of different photos and watching it. You know, I'll probably put Star Wars on or something just to get, you know, all of our faces are all so similar and yet there's so much variation, you know, in the way that you have to, if you want to be a portrait artist, you really have to pay attention to the little things. Or a people portrait artist. I draw a lot of dogs for money, and those are not super complicated. You know what, I should probably do like a digital dog tutorial. But like the trick with dogs is simply moving in the direction, moving your strokes all in the direction that their fur is going. People are not quite so simple. You know, it's almost like I've done portraits where I spent a whole lot of time worrying about making it photorealistic, and those didn't capture the person nearly as well as when I learned to observe them and their facial expressions and kind of, I don't want to say do a caricature of that, but learning how to evoke something is more important than copying it directly when talking about portraiture. I like it because it's extremely difficult. It's just hard. You know? Even if you have all the basics, even if you know the ratios and you can see them and you can recreate it. Alright. / end speech. Do I want to make him more detailed? I don't know. Get in there and comic book it up, I suppose. Put some lines. But that needs to be closer to green. It's not light enough. There we go. Is that even? I have no idea if this mask is correct. Whatever. I'll get it right on the final product. I need a paintbrush. See, there's a good amount of transparency on this brush. Even when it's set super, super dark. It's also pressure sensitive, so I don't have to get a ton of dark if I don't want it. It's kind of like if you play video games with a mouse acceleration on. Some people love it and can thrive with it, and other people can't. Oops. More so than most people, I like to paint very zoomed in. I think a lot of times digital artists spend so much time perfecting the brushes that lay the paint on, they don't spend enough time perfecting their blending tools. I mean, think about all the blend. If you work traditionally, think about all the blending tools that you use: a Q-tip, a torsion, who knows? Your finger, your palm. I mean, I bet I used 30 different blending tools with traditional art. And yet, a lot of times people think that smudging is just smudging. I don't agree at all. Also notice, like, I mean, there's certainly a time for brushes, but probably 3 brushes in this whole thing. Notice I use this, I call it my punk rock poster brush. That's my airbrush. I don't ever use a traditional, I shouldn't, it's funny. I haven't used a regular airbrush in a really long time, but I'm about to do lightsabers. There's a 99% chance I break out the regular old airbrush, right? Ooh. I overlaid some texture on this, some like burlap or something. And I think that I'll just, when it comes to it, I'll just hatch it in, like this to get that texture. Just something like when I go to do it IRL. One thing about Manga Studio versus Photoshop, the blending works incredibly differently. A lot of the painting stuff, the painting engine, sure, it's a little different, but the brushes, you can basically get the same brushes in both. But I'm not saying, there's just I believe that there's a place for both. I have Photoshop open right now. Good. Right now I'm just getting the illusion of the kind of fabric that he's made out of. He's made out of some kind of Alright. See if we're good enough. I don't need to put a reflection or anything in there. Those appear to be roughly the same level of detail, right? Pretty cool. Alright, so now she has a blue lightsaber. I go down here behind them. She has a blue lightsaber, and he has a red lightsaber. First let's just get an airbrush out, and it's going to be tough on a white background. I don't want to make it a black background though. Should I make it like a gradient? How would I do that with watercolor and make it look good? So if his hand was down here, theoretically, get a big brush out. Start with red. Theoretically, that white is covering everything. This is going to be tricky. Like that. What I need to do is just alright. So this is the problem with working on one layer. So I have a bunch of gray pixels out here that won't get selected out for whatever reason. So I'm painting with, not with white, but with transparent pixels to try and clear all this out. Should probably look at her hairstyle. Too much. There we go. Alright, now let's see if we can select. Whoa. Now we selected the whole picture. Oh. I must have hit 2. 2 is my macro to make a new layer. And there we go. Might be. What was going on? Okay. Now let's see. Ooh. I don't know exactly what color her lightsaber is. I think I originally pictured it like she was holding her sword over the head, and that it was something like this, and then like this. He could certainly have his out here, and she could have her. Oh, that actually works, right? If his hand was back. This is like an important thought. Like, it's got to make sense, right? It's just 4. So, here's something that took me a little too long to learn when doing these kind of like stylized things. Is that if you have his face is here, his big honkin' schnoz, and she is here. His shoulder could be back here, his arm back here, his forearm here, his hand here, which is hidden by all his hood, and then his saber could be going this way. Right? Or his hand could be in deep space, way down here. The shoulder could be lower because the hood doesn't really suggest anything. And that thing could be right here, and that's totally believable. And she, her shoulder is here. She could have her arm way up out in space here, holding it straight this way. It's possible. And it's really important that whatever position their hands be in be possible. Her shoulder's up here. There's no reason that her arm can't be arced. I mean, she could have it down like, ooh. That's what we need to do. See? Oh, whoops. I forgot to put that. I didn't put those lightsabers on different layers. That's a mistake. I hope I can back up enough. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but... Okay. So what if her arm was way up here, and that blue lightsaber... I'm not even going to start thinking about, like, aspect ratios and the golden rule and blah, 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 blah. Let's not get too technical. Let's just see if we can make this thing... What if hers is like this, and his is like this? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Only in the background and, like, behind him. His would stop, like, right here. I don't know if I would need to add, like, a bunch of lighting, like rim lighting to them. Maybe. There's two of them, though. Yeah, I could put this behind, and I could light this with blue on the rim, and then this could be showing, and then her face could be red. Her face is already super saturated. That might be cool. So let's try that. But the next question is, like, what color do we make the background? It's just black, right? I mean, that's the move. I don't understand how that's... I guess we have to do this the old-fashioned way, which is a shame, but... I have no idea why I wasn't thinking about using... It's funny, I'd rather spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how to do this in an automated way than just take the 60 seconds to rub it out. I gotta fill back in on her face. And then I can use a color mode overlay to add sort of the highlights and leave the values since they're kind of where I want them to be. Thought that was a speck of dirt on my monitor. No. Paint with transparent, not with black. this white stuff here will just be highlight. It'll end up blue. I'll probably change this color red in her hair. At the time, I just wanted it to go with her outfit. The Imperial, all that Imperial whatnot. Ooh. He looks all rough. Nope. This is one of my favorite blending tools, the running color on fiber, which is just part of Manga Studio. The Smooth Painter is one that I made, which sort of mimics one of the paintbrush blends, like the blends that are built into the paintbrushes in Manga Studio. And the puffy one is my Photoshop Q-tip blender, or similar to that. Ooh, wait. Opportunity. Create a little bit of depth here. Happy accident. Some folds. Homeboys thing. Give him kind of an interesting crest there. We can add highlights too later. I don't remember her hair being particularly oily or shiny. But, okay. So now we did that. And then now we can take a traditional white, I know I have an airbrush here. Like classic airbrush? What do I call it? I literally never use it. Soft airbrush, there we go. Let's see. His thing is like jagged, right? Maybe this will look better. It's like thin and jagged. It's like that, right? It like comes to a point, I think. Pointy lightsaber. It's like rounded. Like that. Like it's stabby. I don't know if it would look better pointing at her or like hers. It's also crooked. That's a problem. Like that. I gotta look at their lightsabers. It's funny how easy a lightsaber is to put in, like, to paint, comparatively speaking. Like it's the easiest thing in the world. Okay, Kylo Ren? Emo Kylo Ren? Yeah. Seems like kind of jagged and thin. With like a red glow. Something like brush density, get down the opacity. Ooh. Why is... Oh. That's not the right color. Is it like this? Sort of. If we go ooh, good idea. It's like white in the center, right? I'm asking you as if you can answer me. Okay. And then color blue is it? Gray. I'm sure there's like a Star Wars lightsaber blue. But first of all, I'll never get that right with traditional tools. Not perfectly. So why get them? It's pretty light though. Let's go back to the regular airbrush. Ooh, that's not good. Why didn't you guys tell me I did that? Ah! Now if I add a color layer on top of this, so I could technically rim light her in blue and rim light him in red, as if they were not next to each other, I suppose. Right? How saturated do I want to make this? Let's try somewhere in the middle. And for her, oh shush. I'm just cheating this with a color layer instead of adding in super realistic lighting effects, because that's what a mock-up is for, right? That's pretty cool. You can get on board with that, right? That'd be a cool painting. I feel like we need to do some kind of texture back there, some lighter gray thing. Let's see what happens. Try to stay away from any kind of happens. It's taking a grip and a half to blur. Is it done? Huh. Alright. I think we can call that a mock-up. Oh, it created a line there. Yeah, that's easy to fix. I don't know which blending tool is going to fix it, but one of them. Not that one. I thought I I get it. I backed up one too far. Oops. I thought I took care of this. Then we could up the contrast, and like this isn't really white. It's kind of far from white. If we wanted to, we could take an airbrush and oops, it's not what we wanted. Alright, cool. Send that off. And we'll paint this thing. You can follow me on Instagram. The full painting will be done, probably a couple days. Maybe after Labor Day. I'm not sure. So, I'm sure you can find it there. But I hope I've given you something to think about, or at least a bunch of things not to do. So, take care, guys. Questions, comments below. Adios.